Okay, I'm back. So, part two. So, we are at IVF stage now. Part of my story, we are getting into IVF, right? So, as I was saying before in my previous video, my name is Tiffany and I am 34. I have been trying to conceive for 20 months, and due to a blocked tube and the fact that my husband has some abnormally shaped semen and some that's been backwards, and letrozole and Clomid failing to work, even that ovulate with or without meds, I get a regular period. I had a wrong PCOS diagnosis, took metformin for 10 months, had blood work, an SIS, saline histosonogram done, an HSG, which confirmed my blocked tube. My uterus is fine, no polyps, fibroid, scar tissue. I do not have PCOS. All my blood work and labs came back normal. My AMH is good. So my period came September 5th. And when my period came, I had to call IVF Florida. And I went in on day 3 of my cycle. So I went in on September 7th. Yes, September 7th. I went into IVF Florida. They took my blood to check my estrogen level to make sure it was okay. And they did an ultrasound, make sure I didn't have any cysts or anything like that. And they prescribed me birth control. I'm taking the birth control. I started September 9th. Was my first dose. And I will take my last dose of birth control September 25th. Now, contrary to popular belief, birth control is supposed to aid in not getting pregnant. Well, in the IVF world, it helps to manipulate your cycle. It helps to suppress your ovaries and stop ovulation. So the IVF clinic can time things and schedule things on their timing, right? So basically, I'm taking birth control for 17 days, so I won't ovulate. It'll give my ovaries time to rest, and I'll be on their schedule so that they can schedule everything for me and know exactly when to start my injections, which I'm supposed to start September 30th. I will go in for a baseline ultrasound, make sure there's no cyst, make sure everything looks good on ultrasound, and get my estrogen levels checked again, make sure they're not too high or too low. And once that is confirmed that it is good to go, then I will start what's called stimming. They are injections that I will take subcutaneously in my abdomen twice a day, every day, for 8 to 12 days, right? So I'm supposed to start September 30th, right? And then on the 4th day of me taking these injections, every night, one is Gonal F, which is FSH and LH. One is Menopur. I forget exactly what that has in it, to be honest with you. And then I will take Cetracide as well, to prevent premature ovulation, right? So day 1 of stims will be September 30th, sorry. September 30th. And then on day 4 of stims, I'll do what's called monitoring, where I will go in every other day starting on day 4, and they will check my follicles and see how many I have on each side of my ovary and how they're growing. So a follicle is what contains an immature egg, right? So every day I do the stims, and then every other day I will get checked on ultrasound to see how they are growing. And once they all become mature, they're all at the same growth rate. You know, I could have 20 follicles on one side and 15 on the other, or I could have, 10 on each, but at least if 4 of my follicles are mature, they can go ahead and schedule what's called an egg retrieval, right? So, like I was saying, so every other day between 8 and 12 days, they will monitor me. I will take the injections to stimulate my ovaries, hence the name stims, to produce multiple follicles that could contain a mature egg. So once they all reach the right size, they will give me what's called a trigger shot. Once they are all mature, I think it's like 16 millimeters, 20 millimeters. Once they're all about that size and they say it's time to trigger, we'll take a trigger shot. We won't take any of the other meds that day, just that one. And then 36 hours later, it'll cause my body to ovulate. And then they will go in and they will retrieve my eggs. They will suck out the fluid of all of the follicles and put them in like little tubes. And then the embryologist will go in and count how many eggs there are. And so say they retrieve 20 eggs, right, out of my ovaries. Then the next day, we'll get a fertilization report. And they will let us know out of the 20 eggs retrieved, 15 were mature and 12 fertilized. And then on day 3, it could go from 12 fertilized to 7 still made it. And then day 5 is the final report. Whatever makes it to day 5 is called the blastocyte stage, which they will, at that point, freeze, let us know what grade they are. 4AA and 5AA are top grade for the embryos. And we will know how many they froze. So say out of 20 eggs they retrieve, 15 are mature, 12 fertilize, and say on day 5 we have 4 embryos left. Those we will freeze because they made it to the stage where they can eventually be transferred back into my uterus and hopefully implant and attach and turn into a baby, right? So basically, the IVF process takes about 4 to 6 weeks, right? So you have the suppression stage with the birth control, and then you have the stimulation phase, and then you have the retrieval phase, and then you have the transfer phase. Then you have to wait longer for the 2-week wait to find out if you're pregnant or not by a beta HCG blood test. So yeah, I have 8 more days left of birth control. On the 25th of September, I'll take my last dose of birth control. And then September 30th, I will go in, like I said, do my stims for 8 to 12 days. Could be 8 days, could be 10 days, could be 12 days, it could be 14 days actually. And then I'll do my trigger shot when they're mature. And then I'll do my egg retrieval 36 hours later. And then 5 days after that, we'll find out how many embryos we made that made it to be frozen. They will freeze those, and then I will wait for my next cycle again. And then I will take more shots, progesterone oil shots, estrogen, all of that stuff. Maybe even possibly more birth control. And I will get my body and my uterus ready for transfer. So all of the shots for that is getting my uterus, my uterine lining thick enough. It has to be between 8 and 10 millimeters in order to do a transfer. And my estrogen has to be in a good range as well. So as long as all of that is good to go, and my uterine lining is thick and it has like a white line to it, and it has like 3 layers looking to it, and say it's like 8, 9, 10 millimeters, I'm doing all my shots, I'm responding well, then we would get a transfer date, and then they would go in while I'm awake, and they will take my embryo in a little catheter, and they will do like how they do like a pap smear and put a speculum, and they will just insert our embryo back into my uterus. And then I'll lay there for I think like 20 minutes or so, and then I will get up, and then I will be pregnant until proven otherwise. And I'll have to wait 2 weeks for a blood test, which on a home pregnancy test, 5 days after transfer, you can get a positive. However, because the trigger shot is in your system, a lot of women test out the trigger shot because it's ACG. And they wait till it's completely out of their system, and then they test the next day to get a true positive. So knowing me, I'm a piano stick addict, so I probably won't wait 2 weeks for a blood test. Like, yeah, right? And so 2 days after the transfer, like that day, and then 2 days after, like I'll be like quote unquote on bed rest. Like I'll take it really easy. I won't do anything. And so then we'll just wait and see what happens. So now mind you though, when we do the transfer, we want that part to be a secret. Like I will document, everything else, but we want that to be a secret. So this is the Issa Bloom. It is the generic version of birth control for Desogin. So this fun little tiny pill has been making me into a crazy person. I thought Clomid was bad, but Clomid didn't do nearly as much as this has done. See? So it looks like this. These are all of the active pills, and then these are the non-active pills, so I just take the orange ones, but I'm only taking it up to the 25th. So, sorry. That would be till next Saturday. So I have 8 left. So yeah, these little tiny pills are making me crazy. But, I mean, that's pretty much like the IVF process. I mean, in a nutshell, Reader's Digest version. So, that's why I'm on birth control. And I'm super excited. I'm like, can the 30th get here already? Like, it's so crazy that, like, I'm doing IVF. So I hope I didn't, like, ramble and repeat myself a bunch. I tend to do that. And I hope that was informative and you guys understood that. So I'm just excited. I'm really nervous, though, about the injections. My husband's probably going to have to help me with that. But I have to learn how to, like, mix them because the Menopur you have to mix comes in a powder form and in liquid form. So you have to mix the powder into the water and then inject it. So that'll be fun. And then the Gonal F is just like a dial pen, like kind of like an EpiPen, I guess. You put it to what dose you want, and then you snap on the needle, and then you inject yourself. You gotta hold it down. So like the dose is 150, so I'll dial it to 150, and then I'll inject it and press it down into my stomach until it reads 0. That way I know I got all of the medication. And that one has to be refrigerated. So there's that. So I hope I didn't like lose anyone, but I'm super excited. So IVF is in vitro fertilization, and stims are stimulation medication injections to stimulate your ovaries. Birth control is suppression to suppress your ovaries and allow them to rest and to stop ovulation and to manipulate your cycle to start your IVF cycle. So I hope that was informative, and I'm actually super sleepy, so don't mind me. I just really wanted to get this video out so that I can have an explanation for people who are like, why is she on birth control? She's trying to get pregnant, right? I had a really long day at work too, so I'm super sleepy. Anyways, so if you have any other questions or you want to know more, I promise I'll update again. So just let me know, and I hope you enjoyed this video. See my pineapple in the fridge? So cute, right?